Whether you're in the slammer, on the streets, or even on vacation, it's always good to be cautious about crime, especially if you're in gang territory. This is my gang sign. Today we'll discuss the world's deadliest gangs and what it takes to survive them, or hopefully avoid them altogether. This one isn't for the faint of heart, so if violence isn't your thing, don't say I didn't warn you. From initiations that could leave you with life-altering injuries, to questionable rules that must be obeyed, gang life certainly isn't for everyone. Some are focused on moving products, if you get what I mean, while others are known for extortion and extreme violence. Although most gangs tend to have a leader or boss, some have multiple head honchos, and many of them are very secretive. I mean, who knows? They could be running your local fast food joint.
Come in and try our new curly fries. We are so sure you'll like them. And if you don't, they're on me.
Which group has the highest kill count? Which gang sued Disney and won? And what's the oldest gang that's still running? Be sure to stick around for all the answers. But first, let's take a trip down to Colombia.
Señores, yo soy Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. Haciendo negocios, así que pues fresco. Ustedes eligen plata o plomo.
The Medellín Cartel was established in the mid-1970s in Colombia, led by one of the world's most infamous gang leaders, Pablo Escobar. By the 1980s, the cartel ran the world's largest cocaine trade. Back then, they were responsible for over 80% of the country's cocaine supply. And at one point, they were moving 15 tons per day. But it wasn't just drug trafficking that made them one of the most powerful gangs in the world. It was their ruthless and unforgiving leader who, at their peak, helped them rule the entire country.
Very famous word established by Pablo Escobar, plata or plomo, bullet or money.
You either accept the bribe or you get killed. Anybody who went against Escobar would die.
Surviving the Medellín Cartel was quite simple. You either did what they asked or you were killed. If you weren't with them, you were against them. Escobar was known for bribing everyone from local criminals to government officials. He was also seen as a man of the people, at one point winning a seat in Colombia's Congress in 1982. As a smart businessman, he also offered to pay off the country's national debt, approximately $10 billion, if they stopped pursuing him. Unfortunately, the government and DEA had other plans. They eventually teamed up with the Cali Cartel, Escobar's biggest rival, to take down the drug lord. At one point, Escobar did turn himself in, agreeing to surrender under two conditions. One, he would not be extradited to the United States. And two, he would be allowed to build his own prison. To no one's surprise, his prison, if you'd even call it that, included a nightclub, sauna, soccer field, telephones, computers, and even a waterfall. It was called La Catedral, or the Cathedral. After it was discovered Escobar had killed 2 cartel members while there, authorities decided to move him to a less luxurious prison, but he escaped custody before the transfer. This led to a manhunt, which ended with Escobar being gunned down on his rooftop. Shortly after, the Medellín Cartel would collapse, paving the way for numerous other organizations currently running the cocaine trade in Colombia. But when the Escobar-led cartel saw its demise, an opportunity also arose for the Mexican cartels to gain control over the international drug trade.
Townspeople in Culiacan are having to adjust to a new reality, one where bodies turn up on the street daily.
Here at How to Survive, we're all about survival, even when it comes to surviving the tough demands of being a video creator. Thankfully, you have InVideo AI as your perfect co-pilot and personal sidekick. And now with InVideo AI's version 3, they've introduced the ability to create stunning videos, putting you in the director's seat in the most seamless, intuitive way possible, no matter what skill level you are at. And I'm not just talking about short clips like what Sora, Pika, and Runway do. With just a simple text prompt, you could generate entire videos with scripts and voiceovers. It removes all friction and makes the process so intuitive and fluid that it disappears, letting users focus entirely on their vision and their idea. So I nerded out and asked it to make a Lego mashup of Breaking Bad, and the results blew me away.
Today, class, we're going to learn about chemistry. Yo, Mr. White.
This is amazing. You can also edit anything you like adding your own voice. From short films and product videos to educational content, the possibilities with InVideo AI are truly endless. You can try InVideo AI for free, but if you want to use its generative capabilities, I highly recommend that you go for the Generative Plan, which starts at $96 a month and gives you 15 generative minutes. If you're already an InVideo user, you can simply go to the add-on section and buy generative seconds. Now back to the show. The Sinaloa Cartel is headquartered in Culiacan, Mexico, but has a presence throughout the country and internationally. From Latin America to the Caribbean and North America, it's known for drug trafficking, money laundering, and violence. And joining is no easy task either. You need to be loyal and willing to do what's asked of you without hesitation.
If you are asked to kill someone, you must do it without thinking. If you don't do it, they beat you up and you're out. It's a test. If you can't do it, you don't join us.
Founded in the late 60s, the cartel started small with a focus on smuggling marijuana into the US. They also pioneered the use of planes for large-scale trafficking operations. But it was in the 1990s when the Sinaloa Cartel truly rose to power. That's when things took a turn for the worse.
Violence paralyzed the streets of a Mexican city yesterday as security forces traded gunfire with heavily armed members of a drug cartel. The son of the notorious drug kingpin El Chapo was taken into custody, then let go.
Before his arrest, the cartel was led by Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo. It wouldn't be long before he became one of the US's most wanted criminals. Following an arrest in Mexico back in 2001, El Chapo managed an escape, fearing he would be extradited to the US. In 2014, El Chapo was arrested a second time and put in a maximum security prison. But incredibly, in 2015, he managed to escape again through a well-lit, mile-long tunnel built below his cell's shower area. It even had a motorcycle on rails. Gotta hand it to him. This guy is as slippery as an otter.
The dramatic moments just before or just when El Chapo disappears into a tunnel, there it is right there on your screen for the first time.
With the help of local law enforcement, the Army, and even the Mexican Navy's Special Forces, El Chapo was again arrested in 2016 and extradited to the United States the following year. And his new prison cell is ultra secure. We did a whole episode about it, so be sure to check that out after this. The leadership of the Sinaloa Cartel was then transferred to El Chapo's 4 sons, known as El Chapitos. 2 of them were arrested in 2024 alongside El Mayo, another co-founder of the Sinaloa Cartel, leaving the other 2 in control. Even with leadership being captured and rival cartels such as the CJNG engaging in turf wars to grow their network, the Sinaloa Cartel remains one of the most powerful and deadly. Between shootouts, ruthless aggression, and the worldwide drug distribution, it's likely the Sinaloa Cartel is the deadliest on our list today.
Drug trafficking will never end. They caught El Chapo, but there's already someone else. If they catch him, someone else will take his place. This doesn't have an end.
Before we take you to the other side of the world to look at our only semi-legal gang collective on the list, make sure to like and subscribe for more unbelievable survival stories.
Who are the Yakuza?
The Yakuza are 22 different designated organized crime groups that make their money in Japan from gambling, extortion, drug dealing, prostitution, child pornography, blackmail, fraud increasingly, and any other crime that you can think of.
And they've been doing all of this since 1612, making them the oldest crime syndicate on our list. From gambling to construction and even politics, the gangs that make up the Yakuza have found ways to make money while operating somewhat legally. It's not illegal to join the Yakuza, and many of the gangs invest in legal businesses and donate to charities. There are some registered offices, but recent laws have led to many closing down and declining Yakuza activities, as well as a decrease in their memberships. And known for strict codes of honor, there is often one boss in a gang and those who work under him. A blood oath is usually taken to show allegiance to the family. Those who break the rules often show regret or atonement by cutting off their left pinky finger, a ritual called yubitsume. Rooted in Japanese history, those who carried swords drew them with their left hands.
Since the pinky finger was very important in such situations, cutting the pinky finger represents a loss of control when drawing a sword. I also did yubitsu. You can see how my pinky finger is missing here.
One of the more notable Yakuza groups was Yamaguchi Gumi, led by Kazuo Taoka until his passing in 1981. Given their long-lasting history in the country, some respect the Yakuza despite their links to crime. Following the Great Hanshin earthquake in 1995 and the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami of 2011, the Yakuza were some of the first to donate and deliver supplies to those in need. Some have also opted to focus more on bribery than violence, giving them the title of one of the least murderous criminal groups in the world. Other Yakuza, as well as the government and even Chinese groups like the Triads, can be seen as threats. And they're not the only gang that loves tattoos.
Police in Russia say one of the main figures in the country's organized crime community has been gunned down in Moscow. Aslan Usoyan controlled a criminal group which trafficked drugs and weapons and ran clandestine businesses.
The Russian Mafia, aka the Bratva, is known for its influence, power, wealth, and illegal business dealings. Although they are primarily based in their home country, they have divisions internationally across Europe and North America. Organized crime and political influence are the mainstays of the Russian Mafia, with their main rivals being law enforcement and other crime syndicates. With many different groups across various regions, there isn't necessarily one leader, but influential figures and bosses who often coexist and do business together. Like the Yakuza, one way to identify members and their rankings is by their distinctive tattoos, which became common among Russian prisoners during the Soviet Union days. If you're looking to survive as a member, you'll need unwavering loyalty. This includes not ratting each other out and possibly even taking the blame for someone else's crime. Breaking the Thieves' Code, as it's called, is punishable by death. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, the Russian Mafia became incredibly powerful, as the country itself had lost its structure and identity. Businesses started to pay for protection, state assets became privatized, and crime ran rampant. Often referred to as the Wild 90s, this is when the Russian Mafia was at its peak. Today the Russian Mafia is still active, but isn't as brazen with Vladimir Putin at the helm. Instead, it works alongside him to ensure he looks the other way when they do business how they please. Next up are a couple of gangs known for their distinctive dress codes and drive-by shootings. Considered two of the most notorious street gangs in the United States, the Bloods and Crips started out in Los Angeles, but have since gone international. The Crips were founded by Raymond Washington and Stanley Tookie Williams in 1971, when both were in high school. However, it wouldn't be long before the Crips would grow beyond their control. Nearby neighborhoods would start forming their own Crip gangs, with different leaders for each section, and they quickly began causing problems.
And that's how I became a Blood gang member, willing to fight back, and that was in 1977. I joined a movement. And the movement was to not be a victim of the Crips.
In response to the growing power of the Crips, the Bloods were formed, and throughout the 70s and 80s, they would often engage in violent street wars. Aside from being each other's biggest rivals, law enforcement and neighboring gangs are also considered threats. Some Crips even fight each other.
Bloods used to be the main rivals of the Crips, but now there are just as many Crips are against one another than there are Bloods. A lot of Crips and Bloods have become allies because they share the same common Crip enemy.
These two teaming up over a common enemy isn't unheard of either. Following the acquittal of the police officers involved in the Rodney King attack in 1991, numerous gangs discussed a peace treaty to combat police brutality.
A couple of popular gang leaders from different gangs, from different areas, different sets, had a meeting and decided that this was the perfect opportunity to try to bring a peace treaty, a truce between the gangs.
To survive, you need to be street smart, knowing who's your ally and who's not. It's kill or be killed. Joining either one isn't as simple as wearing red as a Blood or blue as a Crip. It can involve a sketchy initiation like jumping in, where a group of members brutally assault a recruit for a set period of time to test their toughness and commitment. Yeah, I think I'll pass on this one. Today the gangs aren't as prominent as they were in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but they're still active with a primary focus on drug trafficking and extortion. Next up is a gang known for their love of the open road and rock and roll.
I was told when you meet a Hell's Angel and you got your sunglasses on, you better lift your sunglasses up and look that person in the eye. That member wants to see your eyes.
Formed in California way back in 1948, the Hells Angels have become an international gang, with chapters in Canada, Europe, and even New Zealand. The most notorious motorcycle gang in the world, the Hells Angels are known for their loyalty to each other patches, and love for Harleys. There is no single leader, as each chapter has its members and hierarchy. But Ralph Sonny Barger, who was a founder of the Oakland chapter and later the club's leader, is one of the most well-known figures.
Sonny Barger had genuine leadership capabilities. He was also probably the toughest son of a in the bunch, too.
Before his passing at the age of 83 in 2022, Barger claimed the Hells Angels were a bunch of fun-loving guys who just ride motorcycles. The US Department of Justice strongly refutes that. According to their research data, the Hells Angels are involved in murder, trafficking drugs, including meth, cocaine, heroin, and anything else you'd be interested in. They also buy and sell firearms. And it takes more than just being tough as nails to ride with these guys. Becoming an official member of the Hells Angels can take years. To start, you need to know a member and, of course, own an American-made bike. At first, you become a hang-around, which allows the other members to get to know you. You may be given small tasks to complete, and after a year or so, you could become a prospect.
To get full membership, you have to be voted on by the members of your charter, and you have to receive a 100% vote. If one member of that charter votes against you, your prospecting phase continues.
And once you become a full member, that title lasts for life. Surviving requires an unwavering loyalty to the club and the Brotherhood. To no surprise, other US-based motorcycle gangs, such as the Outlaws, and of course law enforcement, are the Hells Angels' biggest rivals. The media is also a threat to their image, something very sacred to the club. So when Disney mentioned the Hells Angels and featured their logo in the 2007 buddy comedy movie Wild Hogs, they slapped them with a lawsuit.
You got a deal.
Prior to the film's release, the lawsuit was voluntarily withdrawn after Disney agreed to remove all references to the biker gang. Aside from burning rubber, they also love rock and roll. But when they were hired as security for the Altamont Speedway Free Festival in 1969, a Woodstock-like concert, things took an ugly turn. Sonny Barger blamed headlining act The Rolling Stones for the violence that killed 4 people, injured several more, and caused major property damage. One of the Hells Angels, Alan Pissarro, stabbed and killed concertgoer Meredith Hunter, an 18-year-old who drew a revolver. After that, all hell broke loose. Let's just say, unlike their song, the Rolling Stones didn't have much sympathy for the devil. Now, hopefully we've convinced you not to join a gang. Unless you want to join the How to Survive gang. In that case, hit that subscribe button. But in all seriousness, we've only scratched the surface here. There are several incredibly dangerous gangs that we'll get into in our next episode. Gangs like the Triads, the Sicilian Mafia, and the creepy Aryan Brotherhood. Many of whom you might meet in the clink, depending on where you are in the world. Of course, gang life can lead to lengthy prison sentences, and knowing how to handle yourself in the Iron Jungle is crucial. Be sure to check out our video on the deadliest prison scenarios so you can stay prepared. Could be the difference between life and death. We'll see you next time on How to Survive.